GSI is a brand that can't be missed if you are looking for a high-end steering wheel. With the version 2 of the FPE, they are giving it more than just a facelift. The FPE V2 was sent by GSI for review. I also have an affiliate link with them. You can use the code RANDOM for 5% discount. GSI has zero input on this review, and as always, all opinions my own. If you have seen the GXL V2 review, and if you haven't, you should, by the way, the FPE V2 is essentially the same steering wheel minus a couple of differences. The biggest one will be, of course, the monitor, the screen at the front, and then it will have a different LED configuration at the top. But the rest is essentially the same steering wheel with the ergonomics included. So in this case, the FPE V2, much like the GXL V2, is a result of customer feedback and GSI implementing that feedback into a new design. Hailing from Texas, where all my exes live, GSI has been creating sought-after wheels for quite a while now. As a brand, they have really evolved from the time they were building wheels on Twitch to a brand that is sought after for their top-of-the-line high-quality equipment. As for the FPE V2, this is a high-end 300mm sim racing wheel hand-assembled, and just like many of the type, the price will follow those things. It starts at £1,030 or $1,250. There are a few choices of sticker colors if you want to customize it, and even paddle and clutches. But GSI does not offer a choice with top shifters for this wheel like some of the other brands at this price range. The version that you see here is the Phantom with the carbon shifters at the back and also the carbon clutches. In this case, this version will set you back £1,226 or around $1,470. And it's going to be more if you decide to use the customizer to customize your buttons stickers. In terms of build, the wheel is an aluminum body with the front carbon fiber plate. The rear will have a 6x70 mounting pattern for M5 bolts. It will have 10 buttons, 5 rotary switches with the click, and a 2x7 wave funky switch. And of course, in the rear, you'll have the shifters and then the clutch. So in total, just like the GXL, you'll have a total of 57 inputs max, which should be more than enough for most people. The 6x70 mounting at the rear will make it basically universal with most quick releases out there. Essentially, if you just need something, it will be either the quick release or an adapter plate to help with the quick release. For example, with Logitech, this mounts directly. With Fanatec, Conspit, with Mozza, you might need a little bit of an extension or an adapter plate to make this compatible with your wheelbase. In terms of the main differences between the FPE V2 and the GXL will be the 4.3 touch-capable monitor, and then the 3.14 configuration for the LED layout instead of the 3.10 that is available on a GXL. And those are something really personal, and just like the GXL V2, the FPE V2 has been on a diet for handles and also for the internals. For the handles, it lost some girth, so most hands will fit this, but for some of you, this might still be a little bit too big. For my hands, it is perfect, including the shifter positioning. Even though this wheel has been on a diet, this is still quite a heavy wheel. You know, for the 1500 grams, you still need to add the quick release, so it's going to be quite heavy. So in terms of power for your wheelbase, 5 Newton meters could be the bare minimum that we will need to run something like this, but the recommended is at least 8 Newton meters. So something like the CSLDD 8 Newton meter, the Mozza R9, the Simagic Alpha Mini, or the Conspit 10 Newton meters Aris. I've been actually using the Aris with this and has no problem whatsoever, and likely the Logitech as well will be exactly the same thing. So 8 Newton meters is the recommended. 5 Newton meters minimum may be enough, but you know, it's something that is absolutely the bare minimum. Also, what you need to keep in mind for bare minimums is the power usage of this thing, because it has such bright LEDs that consumes a lot of power. So you might need to connect this either directly to your computer, or in my opinion, if you use it on a hub, you need to have a hub that provides at least 24 watts of power so you can power this and everything else as well. The ergonomics of the FPE V2, which is basically the same as the GXL V2, are pretty great. All the buttons are in easy reach of the thumb. The handles are extremely comfortable, though, like I said, it must be a little bit too girthy to some of you. The buttons have a very precise feel. There's no movement until a certain force is reached, and then there's a short throw and a nice sounding click. The center rotaries are incredibly satisfying to use, and because they are clickies, that means you can add functions to that as well. The shifter at the back is on the softer side. The engagement doesn't require much force and it has a dampened feel at the end. I always prefer stiffer shifters, the Fanatec ones that will have, for example, on the Podium series, I think they're superior to almost everything, but that doesn't mean there's something wrong with these, just my personal preference, and I'm just saying what I feel. The clutches are quite interesting because they are really beefy with a strong magnet. I've used magnetic clutches before. They don't feel as strong as this, and with this one you're gonna feel a lot of dampening force from the middle of the throw up until the end, so you understand more or less the force, and it's not really a linear force. You understand the resistance coming up, which is quite a nice design choice. If you were looking for a GSI compared to other wheels, what sets basically, or at least that visually, the GSI wheels from everything else is the absolute light show you're gonna have with their profiles and other profiles that are also available for this. The LED diffusion layer presented in the buttons adding with the software controls from SimHub make this wheel a personal light show that you won't want to miss, and that gives out so much information from pit speed limiter engagement, flags, or even when the car is beside you. It's eye candy, but it's really useful eye candy. There's also a bunch of colorways present. This one is Prime. This one is Suzuki, but there are many others. GSI wheels are running SimOS, a place to update the wheels firmware for more features as they come, and to change some settings in the wheel like clutch bite points, encoders, and power usages. It's available at GSI's own site. Using the FPE V2 has been essentially the same as using the GXL V2, so doing this review was quite easy, as it's basically the same wheel minus the changes I've mentioned, so I wasn't really expecting many differences. In reality there weren't any. The handles work great for me, and the ergonomic spacing of buttons is on point. Everything is reachable within a reasonable arc of the thumb. At longer sessions, I have felt no problems whatsoever with hand cramps, much like the GXL. The only thing I felt that was missing was the thumb rotaries with the click, as the rotaries with clicks help to add some functions to clean up the assignments, but since the center rotaries already have clicks, it's not something that you really need. As for the wheel itself, it is incredibly rigid. I haven't detected zero flex or torsion or anything like that. You know, at this price, you really don't want to see those things. The over 50 buttons means that basically every single function that you'll figure out in even more complicated cars like GTPs or LMDHs or Formula 1 cars means that you can really assign all of those functions to this wheel, and there will still be buttons to spare. The screen is bright, clear, and easy to read, with the touch function helpful with those SimHub dashes with multiple inputs, just like lovely dash that I'm using at the moment. With the stock LED profiles and then merchants RPM flag profiles, the FP V2 gets so much info for the driver. The stock LEDs work okay, but unfortunately they're only compatible with iRacing. That means if you want to have it in Assetto Corsa Competizione, you'll have to find another solution. Myself, I subscribed to Dan Merchants to get his own RPM profiles, and it works really well with this wheel. As for downsides, I've already talked about a few. This wheel is incredibly power hungry, so you need to have a decent USB hub to power this. And then there is also the situation of the weight, because this wheel weighs about 1500 grams without the quick release. That means you really need to have a mid-range wheel in order to use this decently. And also, like the GXL V1 and V2s, these ones, the M1 and M2 buttons or the LEDs, are kinda useless in my opinion. They could be a button here. For some reason they haven't used it, and it just shows you, whenever you do something to these buttons, the funky switches. I think a better solution was warranted here. For me, this is kind of redundant. And then there's of course the price. At starting $1,250, it is very expensive, but it's more or less in line to whatever is available at the moment from the competition, like Solpack, Asher. Only really the Delta Simtex are cheaper than this, but they don't offer for this range. They don't offer as many buttons, but still, it is an expensive wheel. Much more if you start to customize this. That in mind, the GSI V2 is a natural recommendation if you don't want to have a screen, because a lot of you won't be needing screens. You would much rather use something else or the information on screen on your own computer instead of looking at the screen like this. I like to have something like this because it tells you information with those dashboards, including lovely dashboards that tells you so much stuff, like a fuel calculation, like what is your brake bias, and some games aren't really that easy to understand what's the brake bias. For example, iRacing, having a dash does help. As for conclusions, the FPE V2 is an excellent wheel that brings a lot of great features and a wheel that is well built and well thought of. The ergonomics are pretty great, the LED functionality is fantastic, and once you started using it, you really don't want anything else. If you like this video, don't forget to press like and subscribe, and tell us below what you think of this.